Hello. Today I've come to the caravan to do a job I've been meaning to do for quite a while. We've got one of these air awnings, which are fantastic by the way, and I've got an electric pump, a 12-volt pump to pump in, but there's no 12-volt power supply outside the caravan. So what I've done is I've purchased one of these, the little cigarette lighter socket. As you can see, to plug it in, it's got an inline fuse, and it is, I'm not sure how long the cable is, but it's relatively long. As you can see, it's got an inline fuse as well. So what I'm planning on doing is connecting it to the outside locker, or inside of the outside locker, next to where my 240 supply is, and then run the cables through, and then I'll have a 12-volt supply outside for the 12-volt pump for the awning, or indeed anything really that requires a 12-volt supply. So let's run around and show you what's going to happen. I'll remove the cushions from the seating area, and I don't know if you can see down there, but that circle with the wires coming through is the 240-volt supply to the outside locker, which I'll show you in a second. And what I'm planning on doing is drilling above it, so the wires come in the same area, and then I can neatly tack them along and wire it into the back of the one in the caravan. So tools that I'll be needing for this job is a 32mm hole cutter, which just attaches to the drill. I may need some spade connectors and also some crimping pliers, but we'll have a look at that in a minute. So let's pop outside and have a look inside the... Okay, so let's have a look in the locker. So this is where it is going to go, just about here somewhere. So without further ado, let's drill through there. So it's above the 240 wiring, going into there. So that's the hole drilled. Incidentally, if you've never fitted one of these before, they're quite straightforward. Sometimes it's easier to take the wires off first. Oh goodness, they're quite tight. So take the plugs off first, and then it might be easier to reconnect them when they're in. But there's a thread, as you can see on there. So this comes off like so. Then that section there goes through the hole, and then you put this back on again from behind and tighten it, and that will fix it into the fix in there. That'll hold it still. It is difficult in this type of environment because you can't get your hand one side and the other at the same time. So what I'm going to probably do is pop this in, then put a little bit of tape on it to hold it inside the cupboard, and then put the back bit on, and then reconnect the wires once it's tightened up. You can see quite clear, I don't know if you can see it, but you'll see a little plus on there. So your positive lead, or your red lead in this instance, goes onto there, and you'll see a negative or a minus on there, and that's where the black lead goes onto. So make sure they are the right way around for the correct polarity. Okay. Okay, so that's the hole all cut. Just give it a little bit of a clean up. Just make it look a little bit neater. I've actually decided to leave the wires on this one. Might be easier to hold when I get the nut on the back. So I'll just put those through. Put them both through. So that'll just go on there, and I'm just going to put a little bit of tape, if I can find it, which will just hold it in position. Get it level. Hopefully that'll just hold it there while I get the thread off from inside. Okay, let's pop back in the caravan. Okay, hopefully you can see on the camera. It's a bit awkward to put in that position. Right, so as you can see, the cables are through. So remember to put your locking ring on, your threaded ring on first. So put the wires through, and then literally, sorry if you can't see, put this back on, and then just wind it all the way up to secure it in place. And hopefully that hasn't moved from inside the cabinet, but you can just hold it with your other, so hold it with your fingers and turn the thread. Do it quite tight, but don't over tighten, because they are just plastic and they will the threaded nut will break. So that is all secure. I think it is level, and there we go. So then all we've got to do is connect these wires to the supply. I'm going to disconnect the battery now on the caravan, just for safety. I'm sure it'll be fine by not doing it, but for safety reasons it's always best to disconnect any supply. Okay, so here's inside the cabinet. So let's remove those bits of tape, and yes, that's level and that's quite secure, and we now have the socket in place. So let's go and wire it. Okay, so the battery is disconnected, the wires are through, the socket is secure in the cupboard, but typically the wire is too short to go to where I want to connect it to. So I've got just a bit of wire, it's just an old Flymo cable or something, I'm not sure what it is. It's just a short bit of wire, and I'm going to have to join it. So what I'm using for the end on the existing 12-volt socket are some piggyback. Don't know if you can see that there. So that plugs on, and then your new wire plugs onto there. Okay, so I've done one, but these are quite straightforward. That's all they are like so. And if you've got a ratchet connector, a ratchet crimping tool, they are much better rather than the ones where you just squeeze hard. These ones are better. So literally poke your wire through, so it's in, and the insulation's in slightly, very slightly, and just squeeze, and that's it, locks it on. So that's those bits done, and the other end I'm going to butt connect. So I've got two butt connectors here, just going to connect those to the black and red cables that have come through the wall. So I'll be back in a minute when that's done. Okay, so I've got the cables extended, as you can see here. So I've got some piggybacks there. So I'm going to use the brown as the live, like it is normally, which will connect to the red of the bit I've put in. On this one, the existing one, the yellow is the live, the positive. So we disconnect that one, and then the piggyback goes onto there. So that joins on there, which is the brown one. It's a bit awkward to see, but you get the drift. So that goes on there, then back onto the live, and then your negative one, which is that orange and white, goes onto there and plugs in. So I'll just get those wired up and back in a minute. Okay, battery is reconnected. I've got my little pump to try, so let's just put the power on. There we go. Oh, it does this sometimes. It'll come on for a second and then go off. Does anybody else have this issue with their control unit? There we go, it's on now. Okay, so let's go and see if it works. Okay. Let's see if it lights up. Right. So bring it in. Oh yes. There we go. Let's try it. Perfect. So there we go. it is all installed. So there you go. It's always such a nice feeling to get these little jobs done that you've been meaning to do for ages. So it's quite a straightforward thing. I hope I've helped somebody, you know, to do it. Fingers crossed it'll help you. The only tricky bit or fiddly bit was connecting the wires to the back of the existing 12-volt supply. That was the only tricky bit when I was using the piggyback connectors. It's only because there's not a lot of room. I did try to film it, but unfortunately I couldn't get the camera in as well as my hands. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I hope it's been a help. I'll speak to you soon. Cheers.